Today, you're going to learn 6 reasons why offering text giving at your church is a bad idea. New research has been published, and it's quite conclusive on why text to give options for your church are almost certainly a waste of time and money. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why after seeing the research for yourself.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Tools, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you're going to get a dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, joined as always by the boss man, Brady Shearer.
About 2 years ago, we published a video on our Pro Church Tools YouTube channel that was titled 4 the Best Options for Text to Give at Your Church. Okay. We've since unpublished the video because digital changes rapidly, and something that we published 2 years ago may or may not be applicable today. In this case, it's not applicable because new research has come out along with a number of other pre-existing research that pretty conclusively proves now that text to give is not something you should prioritize at your church. We've got 6 reasons why. We're going to dive right into it. The most important piece of research, this is the new one. It comes from nonprofit source. Here are the ways that donors worldwide prefer to give. Okay. So if they're going to give to a nonprofit, including churches, how do donors prefer to give? The number one option, it destroys all other options, not surprisingly. 54% of donors worldwide prefer to give online with a credit or debit card.
Of course.
Secondly, at 11%, so a huge drop from 54% to 11%, direct mail.
That's not how I would prefer to be given.
No, it would not
you
me
mail
either.
me the form, I'll fill it out, I'll mail it back.
In 4 to 6 weeks, you'll get you. 11%, this is another one that's 11%, cash. 10% prefer bank or wire transfer, so that's ACH, direct debit style. 9% prefer PayPal.
Nope.
4% mobile app or wallet. And coming in at last place at a whopping 1. I'll say it again, 1%. 1% of worldwide donors prefer to give through text message.
Wow.
54% prefer giving online. 1% prefer text message. Giving through PayPal is 9 times more popular than giving through text message.
And PayPal's the worst.
It's definitely the worst, although it's apparently 9 times better than the actual worst.
Incredible.
1% prefer text message.
Yeah.
This is by far the most important statistic that you can take away, because there are a number of other reasons why text to give is not an option your church should prioritize. But if you are using text giving within your church, and if you're giving it any type of platform in your communications whatsoever, you're actively working against the desires of the people that want to give to your church. When it comes to receiving digital giving, any type of giving, tithes, and offerings at your church, you want to make it as easy as possible. And if you're prioritizing and trying to encourage, trying to get your church to adopt a method that they don't want to use, you're going to make things difficult. That is rule number 1 to avoid.
Yeah, and this data, I mean, it's pretty conclusive. Only 1% of people prefer to give by text. But even if we didn't have this data, or even if the data suggested something different, that more people preferred to give by text, the second reason that we think that you should forego text to give is that it's always an added cost. It always comes at an added expense to you. I mean, even giving platforms that don't have a subscription fee that just charge you the fees, if you want text to giving, you have to pay more for it. And of course you do, because it's additional infrastructure, it's additional software, there's all kinds of other things that are involved with that. So you have to pay for it. It's another service. But this data shows that there is just not enough people who prefer to give that way to make this make sense for you to pay extra for it.
Yeah, most platforms you're looking at spending probably about an extra $20 a month to get text giving added to your existing plan. Reason number 3, there's 2 different types of text giving. There's true text giving, where you can actually give directly through a text message where you say, there's a keyword like give, and then you put in like 100, and then it gives $100 through, the phone connected card and all that stuff. But a lot of the times what you're getting is where you send out a text, give 100, and then what you get back is a link.
Yeah, here's a link to a giving form on our website.
Exactly. That's what you're getting a lot of the time. So you're basically, instead of using a simple URL, mychurch.com, and then giving on that website, you're making someone enter 10? How many digits in a phone number?
Who knows? Too many.
9 digits plus the keyword plus the amount that you want to give just to get a link to go to a website.
Yeah.
It's a workaround. You're paying extra. People don't want to use it to get to the website.
Yeah.
It is insane.
Yeah.
Reason number 4.
Yeah, we have looked into the data here to see, okay, what kind of people are in the 1%? You know, who wants to give?
Who is this 1%?
And we thought, oh, well, surely it's the kids, you know, with their phones. They want to text. They think it's cool. This shiny new tech where they can send text 555 and give natively through there. But it's actually not them. It's the people who want to give via text are actually between 49 and 59 years old. They're female, they're married, and they're college grads. So basically, they're soccer moms who have their hands full of kids and stuff and jobs and all kinds of things. They're just like, how can I give right here, right now? And so they think that texting is the best option for them, which from our last point, we've seen that it isn't always, because most of the time it's just a workaround anyways. But it's not the kids, it's not the upcoming generation who want this tech. And so we're not going to see a rise of interest in this tech. It's a very niche class of person. And I don't think that we should be, and based off the data, we shouldn't be catering to them.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense to invest in something that's not going to be adopted. Sometimes it makes sense to invest in something that's not fully adopted yet, because you know
it's coming.
Build the foundations now, because you're going to need to do it very soon. This isn't one of those instances.
Right.
We talked to our product team that has worked at a number of online giving companies in the church world, you know, the biggest and the brightest. And we asked them, okay, where does this text giving thing come from? And what they would always tell us, and what they still tell us to this day, is that it was a stopgap solution. Mm-hmm. The online forms that we had were clunky. Maybe they are still clunky. They weren't built in a way that was super user-friendly. And so text giving came in as this stopgap solution in the interim before we could get the tech to create this beautiful, simple, extremely fast online form experience. This is what we did in the interim, but we don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
That stopgap solution no longer makes sense. And then finally, if you're using text to give as a primary option in your church's giving strategy, it's going to muddy your overall communication. I do video announcements for dozens of churches every single week, a lot of whom use text giving. And so I read their announcements, and they go something like, hey, if you want to give, you know, we really appreciate your generosity. You can put it in the basket as it goes by. You can go online, or what we'd prefer, if you give through text, if you just send your text to 555-123-3226 and you use the keyword Life Church and you enter the number,
you'll get a link.
Yeah, we think it's the best way to give. The problem with this is that in light of these numbers, knowing that very, very few, literally 1 out of 100 people would prefer to give to your church that way, when you prioritize something that your church actively resents or actively wants to avoid, you're making things more difficult than they need to be. The whole point of communication is to lead people to take a next step. And if you're purposefully putting hurdles in the way of them taking their next steps, you've got to assume that less next steps will be taken overall. And we'll make a disclaimer here, because there will surely be someone who gets in touch with us and be like, Brady, everyone loves text to give at my church, which means, 18 people. Anything can work, especially in the world of digital. We're living through the biggest communication shift in 500 years. This stuff is difficult, and it's moving at a rapid pace. Anything can work, but your job as a digital individual at your church who's spearheading these initiatives is to find the path of least resistance and to remove as many hurdles as possible, because at that point, you can expect people to take more next steps. Remove hurdles. If you know only 1% of people want to give through text, don't prioritize. If you know that the vast majority, 5 times more than any other option, 54% of people prefer to give using credit card, then prioritize that. Have a giving kiosk. Make it available online. Make it available on every single page online. Make it simple. Make it quick. Make it user intuitive. Improve the user experience. Do whatever you can, because that's the path of least resistance.
And I think if you are that church who is looking at your stats and saying, wow, look at the people in our church who are using text to give, I would say, based off this research, double down on those other areas, those other types of giving that people are actually saying that they prefer to give, and watch how your giving reflects that data, the truth of that data. I'm sure you'll see more people interacting with you and giving to your church than you ever did with texting.
Text to give. It's overrated, and it was a stopgap solution that just doesn't make sense going forward. And that'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Tools. We'll see you next time.
Ready whenever you are.